Hello friends and welcome to my channel. We're going to start with a couple of pictures of the Art by Marlene So-Fish-Ticated collection that my friend Linda gave me. Mine is from Sari Stamping Studio and I will link to everything in the description box below. I start with this new punch that my father gave me for my birthday. I have cut pages that are the same height but different widths. And I use the punch to make holes in my pages that make it easy to use discs to bind my pages together. But first I punch every page and tape off the holes because I don't know how I want them colored. And I do use Dylusions cardstock because I want the pages to handle a lot of ink and paint. I kick off this mixed media adventure with a favorite, this red rubber puffy fish, and I stamp the fish in archival black ink. Next I'm using masking paper and stamp the fish again on the masking paper and fussy cut it out so I have a mask when I take this fish a step further. I'm using the fish bowl from another stamp set. I put my mask over my fish and then I place the fish bowl on his head and stamp with archival black ink, and when I peel off the mask, this fish will have a fish bowl on his head. Next, I'm using a bowl to make a circle that will fit my page. I make it wider and trace the circle onto white cardstock that can handle me using my alcohol markers to color it, and I trace the pencil lines with a black permanent marker. Then I sketch in lines and screw heads so it will look like a boat window. I use 5 shades of grey and start off with the lightest shade and work my way to the dark shades, trying to get them to blend. I go back and forth until I'm happy. Here is that boat window now, and to make it look even more like metal, I bring out my gelatos and use silver and dark grey. I scribble it on and smudge it out with my fingers. It's time for a few of those inky backgrounds I love, and I spray them all with a mixture of Dylusion spray inks and Distress Oxide Sprays. I spray with water and then vibrant turquoise, polished jade, Peacoc Feathers, and After Midnight, and then I put the other 2 pages over the ink and smoosh them together. Then I fill in with Tumbled Glass and splashes of Island Parrot shimmer spray. When the pages are dry, I spray the other side with Tumbled Glass, Peacoc Feathers, Calypso Teal, Wilted Violet, and crushed grapes. I let it drip and enjoy the texture from the Distress Oxide Sprays with the Dylusion sprays. Now let's add some details to the fish. I stamped another 2 fishes and used their spare parts to pimp up this fish and cut out the eye from 2 other fishes along with their tails and fins to add them later for dimension. But first I do what I always do, go around the edges of each detail with a black marker. Next, this fish is getting some color, and I use Dylusion's shimmer paint in bubblegum pink and pure sunshine. These are acrylic paints, but I dilute them with water to make them more transparent and blend together. I start with putting down some bubblegum pink, and I use my wet brush to thin out towards the middle, and I do the same with pure sunshine, going around the fish to define the edges, and then I blend in the 2 colors random and use water to make them blend. For the fish bowl, I bring in more shimmer paint in fresh lime and Calypso Teal. The lighthouse is colored with fresh lime and pure sunshine. Keeping the colors from before here and there ties my image together. And for the waves, I use Calypso Teal and put it where the waves meet and drag the color out with water. For the eye on the fish, I used fresh lime for the petals and pure sunshine for the eyelid. And finally for the ground, I used desert sand ink spray on a brush. My last and final detail is a yellow gel pen for the top of the lighthouse. Next, I glue on both extra eyes on the fish and his fin and tail, and now all I have to do is fussy cut him out. I love both the dimension and the shimmer on this fish. So let's focus on the window for a moment, and I have a piece of acetate from packaging and I cut it to size and glue that acetate onto my frame. Next, I want the background to fit in with the window, and that means metal. I use this embossing folder and run 2 pieces of silver cardstock through my die cutting machine and get these 2 panels of metal pieces. But I want to bring out those pieces and bolts, so I use my archival black ink pad and swipe it over my panels, and if I'm quick enough, I can pour over black embossing powder and heat emboss until melted and shiny. Now remember, this part of the background is only in the corners, the rest is water, so I use a pencil to mark where I need to cut my panels and cut out 4 corners. Then I glue down my corners and make sure the edges are under my window frame. I cut off a piece of my window that was going over the masking tape and the punched holes, and then I put foam tape behind the window. But before I glue my window in place, I need to work on my background, and I bring out this stencil from the same collection. I start stenciling in the seaweeds, first in the purple crushed grapes, and then in Calypso Teal and fresh lime shimmer paints. Having stenciled both dark and lighter seaweeds, give the background more dimension. When I have stenciled my colors, I bring out this Nouveau shimmer paste and push that translucent paste through the stencil to add something extra. Finally, I get to pull off that masking tape and see the whole page. Then I glue down my fabulous fish in the middle, and then I put liquid glue on the foam tape and glue down my window. I snip off anything hanging off the edge, and then I can start working on my next page. My next focal point is this octopus, but I look around in my stamp sets and pull a few seashells and seaweeds. I stamp them in archival black ink, and to have options, I bring out more cardstock and stamp some extras just to be sure. All the stamps and stencils used is from the So-Fish-Ticated collection and can be found through the links in the description box below at Sari's stamping studio. So, let's color this octopus, and I use Dylusions Shimmer Paint in Postbox Red and Pure Sunshine. I put the red shimmer paint down on the left side of the octopus arms and Pure Sunshine on the right side, using water to make them blend, and the darker red becomes almost like a shadow. On her head, I blend the two colors randomly together, and I use the red where I want a shadow. And I love how they blend and shimmer, but at the same time let us see all the details from the black stamped lines. I use Dylusions paint in crushed grapes on the suction thingies on her arms. And I use the same color for her crown. Next to my octopus, I want 3 of these sea creatures, and I want to paint them with the same shimmer paint in Postbox Red and Pure Sunshine. I paint the seashell in crushed grapes and the shimmer paint Calypso Teal, and for the seaweeds I use Calypso Teal and Fresh Lime. On the seaweeds, the blue becomes the color I shadow with. Next, I need a frame on my page, and I use what has become almost routine now, a distress crayon in black soot. I scribble it on and use my fingers and a moist baby wipe to smudge the black. Then I pull off the masking tape on all of the pages because I now know how I want them. But first, let me just quickly show you how I plan to use the discs to hold my journal together. Now, let's work on the background, and I will use another stencil from the collection. I use shimmer paints in Fresh Lime and Calypso Teal and stencil them in random over my page with a makeup sponge. While this background dries, I will jump to my third and final page for today, and I will use this gorgeous seahorse and stamp him with archival black ink. To color this seahorse, I use one of Dylusion's neon colors, Tropical Sangria, together with bubblegum pink shimmer paint. The shimmer paint is darker, so I use that to add shadow. But mostly I just color randomly and blend the colors out with water. I use the purple crushed grapes to define the belly and color his nose. Next, we are back with how to color the punched line, and I decide on black. I use Dylusion's black Marbel paint to paint in all of those white punched sides. And now it's time to put the second page together, and I glue down the seashells first, followed by the seaweed. Then I glue down that beautiful octopus and the small sea creatures swimming over her. Finally, I turn the page over and cut off any excess hanging over the edge. And here are the 2 first pages finished and 1 to go for now. Now we are back with the seahorse, and I use a gold gel pen to fill in his horn. Next, I'm going to heat emboss this background, so I use my anti-static bag. Then I bring out the seaweed stencil and push Ranger's texture paste through the stencil. Then I cover the paste in gold embossing powder. First, the embossing powder were too chunky, so I switched to a finer detailed powder and get the coverage I need. You can choose to wait to heat set this until the paste is dry and get a smoother finish, but I love texture, so I melt the powder immediately and get these raised golden seaweeds. Finally, I put foam tape behind the seahorse and glue him down on my page, and with that, these 3 pages are finished. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you will come back soon again for part 2 of this So-Fish-Ticated art journal. Until the next time, see you soon.